Welcome to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we'll be talking with Caroline Parkin about geocaching. Caroline started geocaching around 2011, and in the beginning, it was hard going. By 2014, she managed to get a hold of the information and guidance that she needed to really get into it. And she's found more than 20,000 geocaching locations, and these days even manages some of her own. Welcome to Forest.chat, Caroline.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me on here, just from a chance meeting at the weekend. From little acorns to oak trees grow.
So, Caroline, what is geocaching?
As we say, my hobby is geocaching. What's that all about? Well, it's a worldwide outdoor activity. It all started in May 2000 when that well-known president, Bill Clinton, made the decision to make all the satellites, presumed military satellites, available to the general public. And he did this by removing their selective availability. In geocaching terms, we say he hit the blue switch. I don't know if it really was blue. I suspect it was red. But he flicked the switch and geocaching started. 2 days later, a man in America decided to test the system to see how accurate the GPS was. So he hid a container, which he referred to as a stash, out in the wilderness in Oregon, published the coordinates online and said, go find it. A few days later, it was found, and that was the whole beginning of geocaching. So originally, it was just individuals hiding a geocache, which is just a box. It can be any size, from the size of your fingernail to the size of a truck, house, anything in between. Although majority of them tend to be about the size, say, of a mint tin or a ammunition can. They're my favourite ones, an ammunition can. What they did then, for initially, they just hid them, put it online to say, here it is, go and find it. But a few years later, when there were apparently about 75 of them out there worldwide, gentleman who originally put it out there, whose name was Dave Ulmer, got together with some other people and started it as geocaching globally, and sort of more regulated it and put it out there as a hobby for people to go and find it. And that's how it all started.
So what does it take to go geocaching?
I see it mainly as a way of getting out into the countryside. Instead of sitting on my bottom at home, just waiting for the end of life to come, I actually get out there and get active, meet people, do something interesting. And that's what geocaching is all about to me.
Wow, that sounds like a fascinating sport. It's one of those things that has a technology base, by the sound of it, requiring the GPS satellites and that type of thing.
Well, lots of people use the phrase that we use billion-dollar satellites to find plastic containers in the bush. I suppose we do, really. You do need some equipment to do it. You obviously, if you're working on coordinates, you need either a GPS device, which we did buy eventually. We spent out about $500. They're about $700 now to buy a GPS device. But my husband and I are getting on a bit now, and we're not very IT literate, so we found them a bit difficult to use. And then we discovered that you can do it all on your smartphone. That's easy. That's how we go and find them. But I find it's all sorts of aspects of geocaching are useful. And the GPS part of it, if you've got children doing it, look at the opportunity there to teach them about longitude, latitude, all the geographical parts of the world. So that's quite a useful tool to use. But you definitely need, if nothing else, you need a GPS of some description. And your smartphone has got a GPS built into it. So that's what we use to actually use them. Other than that, what do we do with it? We go out there, look for these geocaches. What is a geocache? A geocache is just a box, a container of some description. The only thing it has to be, really, is waterproof. Not so important, perhaps, in Australia, But when you start off geocaching in the UK, if it's not waterproof, forget it.
Yeah, that
What
sounds like an essential requirement for the UK for sure. But we've had quite a few downpours here too.
Yeah, we found quite a few that are quite damp, shall we say, at the moment. So when people first start putting out their own geocaches, they tend to forget that, and you find them, and they need to have a plastic container of some sort inside, just a waterproof bag to keep the logbook dry. So each geocache, you go out there, you actually look it up online on the computer. There's an app on there, geocaching.com, which you use to find out where the geocaches are. So off you trot to find your geocache with your GPS in hand. And when you find it, you must sign the logbook, which is inside. So all geocaches must have a logbook in them. And that's why it's important to be waterproof, because otherwise you can't write on it. So the most important piece of equipment any geocacher can have is a pen. The number of people that will write on them, found it, but didn't have a pen. Well, I'm sorry, you didn't find it. That's the only rule in geocaching. You must sign the physical logbook. So once you have found that, you then go online in the geocaching app to put on there that, yes, you found this one. But the most important part is the physical signing of the logbook.
With the signing, you say that's a requirement of the process. Are there like other rules and that sort of thing?
Yes, but they're suggestions and requirements rather than an absolute rule. That's the absolute rule. It must be signed. People, when they're laying a geocache, hiding one, you choose your place to hide it. You take a note of the coordinates, check they're right, and then you have to submit them to a reviewer who is a volunteer reviewer approved by geocaching.com. And when he's approved it, it gets published, and then other people can find it on the geocaching app and go and find it. The whole base of geocaching is in Seattle in America, and that's where these chaps that started it off initially have based themselves and now have got themselves presumably into a multi-million-dollar business. That's the other thing I should say. It's completely free initially. If you want to go out there and do some geocaching, you download the app and it's free, but you don't see all of the geocaches. If you want to pay for it, and it's about $40 a year, which I think is quite good value, then you get to see all the ones that are available to you. Different
So there is a
geocaches.
way that they make, or at least keep the lights on for the website.
Yes, that's what they're doing basically. They've got to pay to keep it running, haven't they? I suppose there's got to be some charge involved. But initially, if somebody was just getting into it, I would say, well, don't pay. Just download the app and see if you like it first before you decide, yes, this is me. This is for me, and I'm going to pay my money and get more involved in it. And to get more involved in it, there are traditional geocaches out there, which is just a small box hidden. There are mystery geocaches out there, which I love, which you don't get just given the coordinates for it. You have to have a puzzle of some sort to solve before the coordinates become visible. It could be something as simple as a jigsaw puzzle or a Sudoku, or it could be cryptogram, or it could be a cipher, or things that get really quite a lot more complicated. The thing is with geocaching, you just do the ones you want to do. If it's one at the top of Bluff Knoll, then that's not for me. So pick out the ones you want to do and do them, and don't think you've got to do them all. Or so stay safe, do the ones within your ability, and that's what we like to try and do.
So it's a build your own challenge.
It is that. It isn't a competition. You're not in competition with anyone. I like to set myself a challenge. And there are things out there called challenge caches, which you can find the cache and you can sign it at any time, but you can't actually claim it until you meet the criteria of that challenge cache. And it might be, for example, I have found 100 geocaches. Then you're allowed to sign that one. It might be, I have traveled the distance to the moon and back geocaching. which would be slightly harder. It might be, I have found one in every state and territory in Australia. And people set those specific challenges. I like going for those. I like them to be set just a little bit more difficult, so it's something I can work towards. Like there's one out there. I have found caches in 30 local government authorities in Western Australia. Oh yeah. So that set me a target to go and look for caches in 30. Oh, and then there was another one for 60 local government authorities. And then there was another one for 90. And I have now found a cache in all but 3 local government authorities in Western Australia. So look where that's taken me.
Yeah, because there's all but 3, and there's like 140-ish different councils.
That's right.
So that's pretty much covered the whole state.
It's a lovely thing to do during COVID when we could only travel in Western Australia.
Yeah, gives you somewhere to go, definitely.
It did. And to me, the geocaching should be about taking you to places that you've never been before, places that are worth seeing. They're not all like that. Some people put them, there's a set out there called negative attributes, places you'd never want to go in a million years. Well, I don't choose to go to those ones. I want to see something worth seeing. And that's what we tend to do. And that's how we tend to do our geocaching.
So you definitely plan where you're going to go.
I do. That's my job. My husband just says, we've got a day out geocaching Thursday. What are we doing? And I will sit in front of the computer, and on the computer, each geocache shows up. The basic ones show up as a green little box, and there's multi ones and mystery ones and all that. I think, well, there's a route. How many do I think we could get done in that day? So I plan the route, sit down, try and read them first, because some of them will need some equipment to go to. So I need to be prepared. There's no point going to one if it needs you to go scuba diving. And I haven't got any scuba diving kit. Well, even if I did have, I probably wouldn't do that one. So yes, there's just a bit of planning. That's how I do it. When we first started, we didn't. We just sort of went out for the day doing something, said, oh, any geocaches here? Oh yeah, there's one. We'll try that. But yeah, it has to be a bit more organised for me now. I won't say our holidays are planned around geocaching, but there's
But it's
certainly
pretty
comes
close
into
by
it.
the sound of things.
It is, but don't tell my husband. He just thinks Seattle's on the list. He thinks, oh, that'll be a nice place to visit. He doesn't realise why he's going there. That's okay. So when you plan your day for where you're going geocaching, there are all types out there, all types for all people. So there might be ones that are just a nice stroll in the park. So you know you're just going to take your GPS and your pen and go for a nice stroll. There are ones that might require more of a hike. So you're hiking boots and you're all ready and prepared to go. We often go cycling as well. That's they're quite enjoyable. There's ones all up the Tonkin Highway on the cycle paths, all down the Kwinana Freeway. Obviously, you need to make sure your bikes were up and running, or at least my husband's bicycle, my electric scooter. There'd be 4-wheel driving ones. I actually sent my husband on a 4-wheel driving course. Being POMs, we don't do a lot of 4-wheel driving over there. So safety factor in hand. So we now go 4-wheel driving and we enjoy that. There's also, we've done a lot of kayaking. They're on the Swan River, the Canning River. The caches are just overhanging the river in the branches or up under the bridges. And there's a lovely big series down the Serpentine, which we did. So we really enjoy our kayaking. There are some scuba diving ones, which we don't participate in that, but we have been snorkeling. There's a lovely geocache down on CY O'Connor Beach. It's what you call a multi-cache. So it's in 5 stages, all around sites that have some connection to CY O'Connor that built that pipeline out from the gold mines. We have tracked all of those very interesting points to trace that one. It ended up on CY O'Connor Beach. We were there on a gorgeous day. We had to swim out to a platform and just snorkeling down this platform on one of the posts. The geocaches was attached to that. And that was one of my favourite ones. I enjoyed that.
So how do you go with the waterproofing requirement on that one?
Yeah, the people, obviously they've got a special container that you use for that. And it was as dry as a bone when we popped up. It was very busy down there. We had to sort of make sure we weren't observed. It's not that it's a secret, but some people might then go and see what it is, and not knowing, they might accidentally sort of open it underwater or something, get it and ruin it. So you have to try and be careful of other people seeing what you're up to. There's tree climbing ones as well. We used to go up trees a lot. My husband has to go up the trees and get them because there's no way that I could climb one. And he doesn't mind doing it, even though we're in our 70s now. So it's not as easy as it used to be. But what he particularly hates is climbing up a tree and me calling out from the bottom, be careful. It's pet hate in geocaching. But we do also have a collapsible ladder that we have with us. So if it's not too conspicuous and it's too high up, we'll get the ladder out. We've also got a 7-meter pole, which is I think it's initially a carp fishing pole, but we've attached a hook to the end of it. So if they're high up in a tree on a hoop, which people are putting out these days, we can extend the pole out and hook it down from a tree. So all different types. As I said, they're different ones for different abilities. And I think that's what I've learned over the years, is that I don't have to do them all. And we went down to Augusta a couple of weeks ago, and there was a cliff. We were within 12 meters of it, but it was a sheer cliff. And so we said, nah, that's not for us. We've done some abseiling though, down to get a cache. So our whole scheme of things is changing now, though. Now that we're getting older, we're perhaps more selective in which ones we do. Just trying to show them that there's something for everyone. We've been out there with babies, and I've been out there with a 98-year-old woman geocaching. So there's something out there for everybody, and it's good fun. There are events as well, which are really good fun. Didn't know anything about those at first. Then events put out there for all people to come together and talk geocaching. And as a beginner, those are things to go to because you can pick up some tips, some advice. It's quite handy. Although I think some beginners feel a bit nervous about going to them. They think, oh, I won't be as knowledgeable as everybody else. No, that's the whole point. You come and we can help you.
It's so great that there's a community there.
That's it. You can absolutely geocache on your own, just with a couple of mates, or you can meet up with the whole community, because once a year we have in Western Australia an event called WA Goes Big. So we all get together. We try and do it regional, so it's not all based in Perth. This year was in Augusta. We've been to Narrogin, we've been to Coolin, Busselton, Geraldton, all get together and help each other out. Other states, other countries have what they call mega events. So if you can get over 500 people there, it's called a mega event. They put on all sessions, classes to show people how to do puzzles and all sorts. But we just haven't got enough people geocaching in Western Australia to get the numbers for a mega event, which is why we introduced for ourselves WA Goes Big.
The person who introduced me to geocaching just the other week, they've been all over the place. They've also been setting up geocaches.
Yes, I try to say to people, anybody can set one up. You have to get the cache you've placed approved by by the volunteer reviewer. But my advice to people would be, wait until you've found about 100, because then you get an idea of what works and what doesn't. Because a lot of people sort of find 2 or 3 and then go out and hide one themselves. And maybe they found theirs on a nice summer's day. And when they put one out themselves, the next time it rains, it's full of water and it doesn't work. So it's a good idea to see what containers work, which ones just won't work. There's no point buying. You see people put them out in takeaway boxes, Chinese takeaway boxes. Well, they're just not waterproof. It just won't happen. But yeah, I think we put out about 148 now. Some people theme them. So you can just put out tiny one. As I said, they can come as small as your fingernail. They're called nanos, and they're usually magnetic. Very hard to find because they're so small. I noticed in Australia, people are very fond of mint tins, which they'll camouflage in some way and put out there. But some people make some absolutely tremendous ones, some fantastic ones. There are particularly 2 people that stand out in Western Australia. There's a gentleman that lives in Denmark called Roy Merck. That's his geocaching name. And he was an engineer. And people come from all over Australia to find his caches in Denmark. They're called Bring Your Own Battery. So he's actually got it all engineered that when you find it, it involves putting a 9-volt battery on it to open it. people are just getting into the hobby, there's some exciting ones to go and find.
Yeah,
And
it
then
sounds like it. Like,
put
and
Denmark on the map. And there's a gentleman in Perth, South Perth, called Duck 43. I'll explain about these names in a moment. Duck 43, who also makes some ingenious ones he puts together. I mean, he doesn't go out looking for caches very often himself. He's only found a couple of hundred, but he likes making them and putting them out. So people make some ingenious ones. When we were down at WA Goes Big in Augusta this year, there's a whole series of down there that have been put out that are absolutely wonderful, creative, wonderful for the children. Put them out. Obviously, you've got to put a logbook in there. If they're big enough, people tend to put some toys in there and children can swap toys. So that's another thing to teach the kids, sharing. And okay, yes, you can take something out, but you've got to put something in. That's quite a good thing. These names I was talking about, you don't use your own name when you're geocaching. There's a little bit of anonymity out there. So you choose a name. My best advice to anyone on choosing a name would be to make it short, because you've got to write that on those logbooks. And if you get a logbook that's in a cache that's as big as your fingernail, there's not a lot of room. If you're doing a big series of them and you've got to keep writing it, choose a short name.
and you've found an immense number of different geocaches. How many have you actually got to?
We found 24,600.
That's
That
incredible.
sounds a lot, but there are people in Western Australia. I think the most in Western person that's found the most is about 70,000. That's in they're from WA. They found 70,000 caches altogether. We have a very good friend that's just come up with a 40,000. And there's other people that do it for donkey's years and have only found a few hundred because that's the way they enjoy doing it.
That's the beauty of build your own challenge, isn't it?
That's right. It doesn't matter how many you've done or which ones you've done. It's people usually find I like looking for the oldest ones. I want to go for the oldest cache in each state, the oldest surviving one.
Effectively, the first one, if it still survives by the sound of that, because people are going to them all the time. I guess some of them get damaged or lost over time. But
if you put one out there, you're supposed to maintain it. So you're supposed to look after it, not just put it there and leave it to go to rack and ruin, because an archived cache, they get archived if it's just rubbish in the bush, and we don't want rubbish in the bush. So you look after it and make sure. The oldest one in Western Australia is in Albany, and that was placed in 2000. The oldest one in Australia is in Sydney, Lane Pool. There. We've now got the oldest one in England we got this year, and the oldest one in Europe we got, which was that was a definite holiday aimed to get the oldest one in Europe, which is in Dublin.
and that's a goal to get that. If you're chasing the oldest one, then Europe would be one of those places where you want to have been to the oldest one.
The very oldest one that was ever put no longer exists, but they've put a sort of memorial plaque there for it.
That was the first one that you talked about when they created.
Yeah, the one that was in Oregon. Yeah. It got, I think somebody said it got destroyed by a lawnmower. It was filled with things, and the only thing that survived, I was reading that yesterday, was a can of beans. And there's a memorial to the original can of beans. One day I should go there.
Stash. So that sounds like it would have been a lot of fun to put together as well.
To have that idea to do it and just place it there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, doesn't the same container, if you're maintaining it and your container gets damaged, you can obviously replace the container, but you keep it going. If you don't maintain it, then the reviewer will come along. There's too many people say it's damaged, it's missing. The reviewer will archive it.
Right. And then that one is lost to everybody.
That's lost forever. Yeah.
It takes quite a bit to be a geocacher, much more than I anticipated there would be. We'll have a little break now. And after the break, we'll talk about what does it mean. So we've had a look at what it takes. Now, let's have a look at what it means. Caroline, what does geocaching mean to you, your family, or the community?
That's a good question, Paul. How did it all start for me? Well, we were coming up to retirement, my husband and I, and my husband said, we really must find something to do together in retirement. And I thought, that's a jolly good idea. So his idea was slightly different from mine. So he bought me a set of golf clubs, golf shoes, golf lessons, which I had a go at. It wasn't too bad. And we then decided to move down to our present location by the seaside. And he signed up for a golf club. Trouble was, it was an all men's golf club. So all my lessons went to waste. And I thought, well, so much for doing something together. And he's also busy, plays in a brass band and goes off doing jobs at that. So where's this doing things together? And I spoke to my sister, who had started geocaching in England with her husband. And I thought, well, that sounds to me like something we could do together. So that was 2011. We went and found a geocache. It must have taken us all of 2 days to find it, and wrote our name on it. And we're both looking at each other thinking, whose idea was this? And we tried another couple. And in the next 3 years, we found precisely 3 geocaches because it was just so hard. I used to print them off the computer and take a piece of paper with me, and we just didn't know how to do it. I can remember walking around one in Armadale, around a lake there, and we'd been looking for about 40 minutes for this geocache. And I saw this plastic parrot sitting in a tree. And we both looked at it and thought, what's that plastic parrot doing in a tree? Thought no more of it. Of course, it was the geocache, but we didn't know that. So anyway, we just persevered on and off for 3 years, found our 3 caches and thought no more of it. Meantime, retirement had actually arrived, and I still hadn't got anything for us to do together. My sister came out on holiday in 2014, and that's all they wanted to do was geocache. And the first few they found, it was like a light bulb going on. I thought, oh, that's what we're looking for. That's how you do it. So this is why I say I think you need to help people out when they're starting, because you haven't got the faintest idea what you're doing. They come in all shapes and sizes, and it's nice for somebody to show you a few to get the idea of it. On a more personal level, for my sister and I, we were orphaned when we were very young. My sister, myself, and 3 other siblings. And we all got split up and sent to different relatives, and really didn't see anything else of each other until our adult life, when I went looking for my brothers and sisters and found them. But it wasn't the close relationship that I'd certainly had with this particular sister when we were very young, because we were the 2 closest in age. And I missed that. But once we started geocaching together, when we went home, they went home back to England, we were Skyping each other, we were Zooming each other, we were on WhatsApp 3 or 4 times a week, talking about what we'd done for geocaching, where we'd been, what we'd been up to that week. And it just brought us back together. The contact was so strong, all divided, all around geocaching. That's how it started. And of course, it went into our wider lives, and we got back together strongly as sisters, as I would always have wanted us to be. So that's very important to me.
That's a really big reason to find some meaning in doing something, is to bring people together like that. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, because my other brothers and sisters aren't interested at all, but that's their loss. And it's in a wider community. I found that these geocaching events I talked about before, that gets people together. The WA big event, we've now, even though we couldn't qualify for a mega like other places do, we do have people coming from other states because they have found that the one in Western Australia is so friendly. It's because it's more on a informal basis. It's not a big organised mega event. It's much smaller and friendlier. And we had people over this year from Sydney, from Victoria. I think it does pull people together. It's good for my family, my husband and I, and for the community of Western Australia.
And in fact, that's how we met.
Exactly, yes. But you didn't entice me into park runs, though.
Parkrun is a do your own adventure as well, just a different one.
Needs a different level of fitness than geocaching.
Oh, I don't know. You spent 40 minutes out there looking around. I imagine it was Champion Lakes. And if it is, we'll have to go and have a look, because that's where the parkrun is over there.
No, it wasn't Champion Lakes. Not that. It was more near the golf course, would you believe?
Oh, okay.
I've
That's
had
a
one at Champions Lakes that I've had to kayak to.
Champion Lakes is all about the rowing and that sort of thing.
And saw a big snake swimming in the water alongside me.
Where was that?
Champion Lake.
Oh, really?
Don't go swimming in there. Yeah, there used to be one on the middle of the island out there, a geocache, and there are people that have swum out to it because
Yeah, because they locked the gates.
keep their pen in their hand, in their mouth, so as they don't get it wet. Swim over there.
So we've had a look at what going geocaching means. Let's have a break now. And after the break, we'll look at how you do it. And we've had a look at what it means to go geocaching. Now we'll look at how you do it. Caroline, how does somebody go geocaching?
First thing to do is to look up the site geocaching.com. There are some very useful help pointers on there as to how to get started, the do's and don'ts of geocaching. So once you've loaded that, I started off on my computer because I'm happier seeing it in big print and working it all out. The next thing is to do is to download that app onto your smartphone, and you'll need to also download some maps onto there. Now, at first, you're going to go out there and use live maps, so you're going to use up your data. When you're into it a little bit more, you're going to load up offline maps, so you can go and look for things. Doesn't matter if you've got a signal or not. And you just look for the caches on there. Don't join. My advice would be don't pay to join up until you're absolutely sure this is for you. You go onto the app, look for any geocaches in your location or in your area, and go to them. Go for it. If you can't find it, you've had a really good look. If you think it's not just you going blind, you just don't know what you're doing, there's a messaging app on every single cache page. You can send a message to the cache owner, that's the person that laid it, to ask for some help or some advice. And I get that quite regularly around where I've laid caches out. People will put a message on there to say, I don't know what I'm doing. This must have gone. Somebody's stolen it, they always say. And I can either give them a hint. It's usually a hint on the page, but maybe they don't even know how to look for the hint because the hint is in a code on there. And all you've got to do is click on it and it comes into English, and it will say something like, it's at waist height, it's at ground level, it's at eye level. Well, that's all very well and good. My eye level is sort of 5 foot. Somebody else's eye level might be 6 foot. So you've got to bear that in mind. Go out there with your GPS. Don't expect that it's going to show you within 2 inches. The GPS is accurate to within about 6 meters. So when you get to where you think it is, expand your search a little bit. Look around about 6 meters. On there, it will tell you a size. They come in micro size. They come in small. They come in regular. They come in large. It's handy to look at that so as you know what sort of size of thing you're looking for. Basically, you're looking for something out of place that wouldn't belong there. It might just be something hanging on the fence. It might be something, those key cases people put out there, fake rocks and things with a key in it. Well, this might be a fake rock with a logbook in it. Have a go. Get in touch with people for some help. If you're really stuck and still want to go, look up an event on there. They show up on the map, just like the geocaches do, but they come up in a different colour. Pop along to an event. Say, help, I'm a newbie. I want to do this. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. And somebody will help you. Get out there, enjoy it. Pick ones for you. Take your kids out. Take your granny out. Enjoy yourself.
It really is for everyone. And, you've even got that category you mentioned earlier about all ages, all abilities or something like that?
Yeah, there are all ages, all abilities, all different types. If I mention some more of the types of geocaches, there are traditional ones, that's your little boxes. There are multi ones where you might have to go and find 2 or 3 stages before you find the final. There are mystery ones where you've got to solve a puzzle to get the coordinates. There are event caches. There are earth caches where there's nothing there to find. It's taking you to some place of geological interest where you might just have to answer questions on the rock formation or something like that. Or might even have to do a scientific experiment does this rock dissolve in water or something like that? There are virtual caches which take you, once again, there's nothing there to hide, to find, but it might be, I found one at Stonehenge. So you're going to Stonehenge, worth going to. So there'll just be a question to answer to prove you were there. Take your picture, put that on there. So all different of those webcams, there aren't many of them anymore, but there's some webcams out there where it's a street webcam on. I did 2 in South Australia recently, and you've just got to get it so that you get your picture taken by the street webcam and put that on the picture to show you were there. So they're all different types for different people.
Wow, that's just an immense range of possibilities. So all those creative types, like the gentleman you mentioned down at Denmark and the gentleman in South Perth, they're really just getting in there and having some creative fun with it by the sound of things.
Yeah, and I think if you were down in Denmark, go and do some Voimerk geocaches. Lots of people are out there and they say, oh, I like doing it, but my husband doesn't or my wife doesn't. Well, you could convert them on those geocaches.
Yeah, finding those ones that help them connect to their inner finder of things. Well, thank you very much, Caroline, for being on Forest.chat podcast. It's been eye-opening for me to learn about geocaching, and I've really enjoyed it. That's fantastic. Thank you for being on Forest.chat.
Thank you, Paul.
A pleasure, Caroline. And from all Forest.chat listeners, we wish you all the best in your future endeavours. You've been listening to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we talked with Caroline Parkin about going geocaching. Remember, there are 4 ways you can get involved with Forest.chat. Share the domain Forest.chat with your friends and family and people you meet. You get advance notice of episodes when you subscribe. Listen to the published episodes at forest.chat/episodes. Book an interview at forest.chat/interview. Book an advert at forest.chat/advert. I'm looking forward to joining you with our next interview. Until next time, enjoy making it happen.